Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next hour. United States designates Pakistani group, the Resistance Front, as a terrorist organization, calls it a front and proxy of Lashkar-e-Taiba, says it reinforces Trump's demand for justice for the Pahalgam attack. In yet another test of its missile prowess, India successfully tests short-range ballistic missiles Prithvi 2 and Agni 1 of Odisha coast, demonstrating credible strategic deterrence capability. Tariff war of words escalates as Brazil's president terms Trump's threats as unacceptable blackmail, says there is no logic to US tariff threat. EU readies retaliatory list targeting US services. Massive victory for cryptocurrency as US House passes stablecoins bill, sends to President Trump to sign it into law. House also approves 2 other crypto bills. And in sports, Indian wrestler Sujeet Kalkal clinches gold medal at ranking series tournament in Hungary. A top story. The United States has officially designated the Resistance Front, or TRF, a known offshoot of Pakistan-based group Lashkar-e-Taiba, as a foreign terrorist organization and specially designated global terrorist following the Pahalgam terror attack, which killed 26 people. In a statement released on Thursday, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio described the terror outfit as a front and proxy of Lashkar-e-Taiba, a UN-designated terrorist group that is based in Pakistan. He further added in a statement that these actions taken by the Department of State demonstrates the Trump administration's commitment to protecting our national security interest, countering terrorism, and enforcing President Trump's call for the justice for the Pahalgam attack. Rubio said TRF and its associated aliases have now been officially added to Lashkar-e-Taiba's designation as both FTO and SDGT under Section 219 of the Immigration and Nationality Act and Executive Order 13224, respectively. The designation amendments will take effect upon publication in the Federal Register. Earlier, the U.S. reaffirmed its strong support for India's fight against terrorism and the bilateral strategic partnership during the visit of an Indian all-party parliamentary delegation. All right, DD India's Amritpal Singh joins us on the phone line. He has more information on this. Amritpal, what does this mean for India? A big diplomatic achievement?
Yes, it means that the United States is committed to its right. It buys the Indian narrative that TRF is a terrorist organization. It is a proxy and a front of the Lashkar-e-Taiba, which has already been designated as a terrorist, as a foreign terrorist organization. One, it means that. Second, it has legal implications. That means once you are, prescribed as a FTO or a specially designated global terrorist organization, there are legal implications. That means you or members of your organization cannot enter the United States. The U.S. citizens cannot provide any material assistance to them. Their assets, if within U.S. jurisdiction, can be frozen. So it cuts the money supply. Under the that's under the FTO. Under the provision of the specially designated global terror organization, what happens is it puts restrictions on you for or dual-use items export. For example, if Pakistan is importing any weapon system from the U.S., there are strict controls that they cannot be allowed to be used for terrorist activities by proxies of the military, which no matter how much they deny. So it has, so this strengthens India's case, say for example in the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force against Pakistan. So it is the first step. It doesn't mean that Pakistan will take action tomorrow against the TRF. We know that they use terrorism as an instrument of state policy and have been using it for very long, and go into deniability, saying that they may be jihadis and we have nothing to do with them, etc. But this solely puts the focus on these terrorist organizations in the international censure, and the international heat turns on them. Yes, Abhishek.
Also, Amritpal, does this reflect growing India-US security cooperation on counter-terrorism?
We have an ongoing security cooperation on counter-terrorism, and it's a robust one at that, which has been reiterated at various fora and various meetings, bilateral meetings. But this goes to prove that they are together in the fight against terrorism. If you look at Marco Rubio, what he says is that the designation of the TR to prove that they are trying to protect, one, their national security interest, which is significant because India has been able to tell them that, look, if today we are being attacked, tomorrow they can attack you. It was not just David Coleman, Headley and Sahabur Rana who did 26/11. They also were caught for and tried in the US for attacking, planning attacks on the Danish newspaper. So they've been told that it is in your national interest to act against them. Second, Rubio says that it clearly puts out President Trump's commitment to bring to justice or get justice in the Pahalgam attack. So clearly they are they seem to be on the same page with you when it comes to countering terrorism through designating terror organizations like the TRF.
Also, Amritpal, you've told us about the pressure it puts on Pakistan. But will Pakistan also face global scrutiny over its role in sheltering these Lashkar offshoots?
Yes, I think incrementally so. Because the world sees that if Lashkar-e-Taiba, which operates out of Pakistan, Hafiz Saeed, though he may now call himself the chief of Jamaat-ud-Dawa, of the TRF, which is basically Lashkar-e-Taiba by another name. So when Marco Rubio says it's a proxy and an offshoot, this is a part of the State Department's handouts, which clearly says that they are proxies of the LAT. So the world sees that Pakistan uses them as strategic assets, as these terrorist organizations, and uses terrorism as an instrument of state policy. So it surely turns up the heat on Pakistan.
Absolutely. All right, Amritpal, leave it at that. Thank you for getting us the latest on that story. Moving on, displaying cutting-edge technological prowess and capabilities, India on Thursday successfully test-fired its nuclear-capable short-range ballistic missiles Prithvi 2 and Agni 1 from the integrated test range in Chandipur, Odisha. The tests were conducted under the aegis of the Strategic Forces Command and validated all operational and technical parameters. The Prithvi 2 missile has a range of around 350 kilometers and can carry a payload of up to 500 kilograms. It is capable of delivering both conventional and nuclear warheads. The Agni 1 missile, with a range of 700 to 900 kilometers, can carry a payload of up to 1,000 kilograms. Both missiles are key components of India's nuclear deterrence arsenal. And on Friday, India achieved a significant military achievement when the Indian Army successfully destroyed two high-speed flying aerial targets at high altitude in the Ladakh sector. This action was carried out through Akash Prime. Akash Prime, the upgraded variant of Akash weapon system, successfully engaged and destroyed two aerial high-speed unmanned targets during trials at high altitude in Ladakh sector. The weapon system is customized to operate in altitude above 4,500 meters and has latest upgrades, including indigenously developed radio frequency seeker. This success is being considered a major step in the field of Indian air defense capabilities. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh complimented the Indian Army, Defense Research and Development Organization and industry on this remarkable achievement. He described the success as a significant boost to India's air defense capabilities, particularly for meeting high-altitude operational requirements. Also, in a landmark achievement under India's push for Atmanirbhar Bharat, the Indian Navy will commission its first indigenously designed and built diving support vessel, INS Nistar, at Visakhapatnam. Equipped with cutting-edge deep-sea diving systems, Nistar strengthens India's operational capability and stands ready to rescue personnel from distressed submarines. INS Nistar's primary roles include conducting deep-sea diving operations and rescuing personnel from distressed submarines. To support these specialized missions, INS Nistar features advanced saturation diving systems and a dedicated diving complex spanning multiple decks. Let's now take a look at what indigenous diving support vessel Nistar is all about. Aimed at bolstering India's maritime safety and rescue capabilities, Nistar, the first indigenously designed and constructed diving support vessel, was delivered by Hindustan Shipyard Limited to the Indian Navy on 8 July 2025 at Visakhapatnam. The ship is highly specialized and can undertake deep-sea diving and rescue operations, a capability which select navies across the globe. The ship's name, Nistar, originates from Sanskrit and means liberation, rescue or salvation. The ship, measuring 118 meters with a tonnage of nearly 10,000 tons, is installed with state-of-the-art diving equipment and has the capability to undertake deep-sea saturation diving up to 300 meters depth. The ship also has a side diving stage for undertaking diving operations up to 75-meter depth. The ship will also serve as the mothership for the deep submergence rescue vessel to rescue and evacuate personnel in case of an emergency in a submarine underwater. The ship is equipped with a combination of remotely operated vehicles to undertake diver monitoring and salvage operations up to a depth of 1,000 meters. The delivery of Nistar, with nearly 75% indigenous content, is yet another milestone in Indian Navy's quest for indigenous construction and is in line with the Government of India's vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat and the Make in India campaign. All right, DD India's Akshay Dongre has more information on this. He is joining us live from Delhi. Akshay, good morning. India has successfully test-fired 2 ballistic missiles, Prithvi 2 and Agni 1, off the coast of Odisha. What do these successful tests signify for India's defense capabilities?
Well, both the test as well as the induction of INS Nistar, Abhishek, as you rightly have mentioned, that this vessel of the Indian Navy is going to give it a lot more capabilities as far as underwater operations are concerned. And when it comes to these kind of technologies, it's best if you develop them from the scratch, and that is what has happened as far as many of these technologies are concerned, and especially that are being demonstrated nowadays, be it the Akash system, the Akash Prime, and other kind of weapon systems that are being developed indigenously. These weapon systems are not only giving India firepower, they are also giving India leverage as far as defense systems are concerned, and your bilateral relations with other countries are concerned. Because as long as you are a manufacturing country, a country that develops these weapons, you're always going to have a customer base around the world for that strengthens your position as far as a weapon manufacturer along with a major and a serious power that not only has firepower but also has the capability of manufacturing these kind of weapon systems that can cause that can prove very important in times of a crisis and in times of a clash between with another adversary. So it's not just strengthening the country's firepower as well as security establishment, but also posing India as a major weapon manufacturer as well as seller is the government's aim as well. And we are seeing that these kind of developments will not only bolster India's weapon arsenal, but also make India take India rather there at the top to make it a serious and worldwide famous weapon manufacturer and exporter, that is an area where India has lagged, but has working vehemently to catch up in the last 10 years, especially. Back to you.
Also, Akshay, talking about INS Nistar, it is indeed a major step towards India's self-sufficiency, Atmanirbhar Bharat in defense manufacturing. Could you explain how this vessel differs from traditional support ships and why you think it is crucial for the Navy's operations?
Well, it is crucial for Navy's operations. Abhishek, let me come to your question that you asked last first, because that's the perhaps most relevant one when it comes to the operations in the Indian Ocean region, as well as the Indo-Pacific and other maritime operations of the Indian naval forces are concerned. Increasingly, we are seeing that even more than the aircraft carriers nowadays, nuclear submarines are the talk of the town, because they are silent killers. They are stealth weapons that can be anywhere in the world and can strike from anywhere, like we have seen in the operations that have taken place around the world in the last few months, especially when it comes to strikes on Iran. Not only the B-2 stealth bombers were used, but the nuclear submarine that was placed near Iran was also used to launch missiles. So that is the real power of the naval assets lie, that is underground, because then you are virtually invisible. So operating submarine fleet, operating it can these kind of weapon systems can be quite challenging, especially if you do not have technologies like what India has gotten with INS Nistar to not only operate these kind of underground naval operations, but also have the capability of supporting these weapon systems. So INS Nistar helps with that, as well as takes your underwater operation forward. So that has given India a lot more underwater operational capabilities. But manufacturing it from the scratch, especially on in home country, gives you also a tag of country that is in the league of very few nations who will have this kind of technology, along with the technology that we have already demonstrated of manufacturing aircraft carriers of our own. So the situation as far as Make in India and Atmanirbharta is concerned, and the goals that have been set up by the Indian Navy to go completely indigenous in a few more years is going exactly as per the plan, and in fact even better than what was claimed. And from the speed of it, it seems that Indian Navy especially will become a fully indigenous force in no short than a few years.
All right, Akshay, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for your inputs. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Bihar and West Bengal today to launch a series of development projects. Amarnath Yatra resumes after brief suspension. Fresh batch of pilgrims departs from Jammu amid adequate security. And India to unveil Waves Summit outcome report. INB Minister to inaugurate IICT campus and new Bharat Pavilion.
The space has an aura which is unmatched. You won't see this anywhere. As soon as I came in, the first sight of Baba Barfani, so I just teared up. So though I don't come across as that spiritual, but nothing could help me that I just teared up. That is how humbling experience this is.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Bihar and West Bengal on Friday to launch a series of development projects worth over $1.41 billion. These projects are aimed at strengthening infrastructure, connectivity and socio-economic growth in the two states. Here's a detailed report.
In line with this commitment to accelerate the pace of development in Bihar and West Bengal and to boost connectivity and infrastructure in these states, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will lay foundation stones, inaugurate and dedicate to the nation development projects catering to rail, road, rural development, fisheries, electronics and information technology sectors. In Bihar, Prime Minister will dedicate to the nation multiple rail projects, which include track upgradation, track automation and railway infrastructure upgradation, which will strengthen connectivity and quality of railway service between Bihar and the rest of the country. Prime Minister will also flag off 4 new Amrit Bharat trains from New Delhi and Lucknow to various locations in Bihar, and also a train connecting West Bengal's Malda town to Lucknow's Gomti Nagar via Bhagalpur, improving connectivity in the region. In a major boost to road infrastructure in the region, Prime Minister will lay the foundation stone for 4-laning of National Highway 319. He will also inaugurate a 2-lane segment of NH 333C, which will act as a key link between Bihar and Jharkhand. Prime Minister will also inaugurate new Software Technology Parks of India STPI facility at Darbhanga and state-of-the-art incubation facility of STPI at Patna. These facilities will help in boosting IT software and service exports. To strengthen the fisheries and aquaculture sector in Bihar, Prime Minister will inaugurate a series of modern fisheries development projects under National Fisheries Scheme. Prime Minister will also release 400 crore rupees to around 61,500 self-help groups in Bihar under National Rural Livelihoods Mission and hand over keys to 12,000 beneficiaries under rural housing schemes. In West Bengal, Prime Minister will lay the foundation stone, inaugurate and dedicate to the nation multiple development projects catering to oil and gas, power, road and rail sectors. Prime Minister will lay the foundation stone of Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited BPCL City Gas Distribution CGD project in Bankura and Purulia district. He will also dedicate to the nation Durgapur to Kolkata section of Durgapur-Haldia natural gas pipeline. Besides, Prime Minister will dedicate to the nation retrofitting pollution control system flue gas desulfurization FGD of Durgapur Steel Thermal Power Station and Raghunathpur Thermal Power Station of Damodar Valley Corporation. PM will also dedicate to the nation the doubling of Purulia-Kotshila rail line in Purulia and inaugurate 2 road overbridges ROBs constructed under Setu Bharatam program at Topsi and Pandabeshwar in Paschim Bardhaman. Bureau Report, DD India.
The Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Dr. Mohan Yadav, successfully concluded his official visit to Dubai and Spain. In Barcelona, he visited the headquarters of Subma, a company which specializes in data center cooling technology. He held positive discussions regarding potential investment and strategic partnership in the state. The Chief Minister said that such collaboration could prove to be a significant step towards strengthening the state's digital infrastructure to global standards. Earlier on Friday, during the first day of the Spain visit, the minister held meaningful discussions with prominent business leaders from various sectors under Madhya Pradesh Global Dialogue 2025. Investment possibilities in Madhya Pradesh and the state's investment-friendly policies were the focal point of the discussion.
यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री के नेतृत्व में जिस प्रकार से विश्व के देशों के साथ भारत सरकार के अम्ब्रेला में राज्य सरकारें काम कर रही है, मध्य प्रदेश उसमें अपनी बड़ी भूमिका देखता है और इसी आधार पर हमने अपने स्पेन और दुबई का दौरा बनाया था। मैं जिस प्रकार से दुबई का दौरा संपन्न करके आया हूँ, हर सेक्टर में, चाहे टूरिज्म हो, माइनिंग हो, अलग अलग प्रकार की इंडस्ट्री हो, फूड इंडस्ट्री हो, फूड पार्क हो, हर एक स्थान पर हमको अच्छा स्कोप मिला है। मैं इसी प्रकार से उम्मीद करता हूँ स्पेन में भी दौरा इसी प्रकार रहे।
And after a grand success of the maiden edition of World Audio Visual and Entertainment Summit in Mumbai, India will unveil outcome report of the summit on Friday. The Union Minister of Information and Broadcasting Ashwini Vaishnav will release WAVE's outcome report. The minister will also inaugurate new campus of Indian Institute of Creative Technology. IICT is envisioned as a world-class talent hub for India's creative economy. The institute is launching 18 specialized courses spanning gaming, post-production, animation, comics and XR, all designed in close collaboration with industry leaders. The minister will also inaugurate Bharat Pavilion and Gulshan Mahal in NFTC campus. Now, the Amarnath Yatra resumed both the Baltal and Pahalgam routes this morning after being suspended for a day due to slippery conditions caused by recent rains. Authorities confirmed that hundreds of pilgrims were allowed to proceed towards the Holy Cave Shrine early Thursday as the weather showed signs of improvement. Cloudy skies continued over the region, but officials said that the Yatra was progressing smoothly and that all necessary safety measures were in place. Meanwhile, a fresh batch of pilgrims departed from the Bhagwati Nagar base camp in Jammu today, heading towards the twin base camps at Baltal in Gandarbal and Pahalgam in Anantnag districts. Adequate security and logistical arrangements are in place to ensure the safety and convenience of the pilgrims. All right, some other updates. President of Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, turned on his US counterpart by saying Donald Trump would not give orders to the President of the Republic after a 50% tariff on exports was announced last week. Lula said that Brazil would go forward with regulation and taxation of US tech firms, alleging that they promote violence and fake news under the argument of freedom of expression.
No way.
We are going to judge and tax the American digital companies because Donald Trump did not even deign to send a letter as we do to another president of the republic and instant summoned us. The letter does not mention negotiation.
In a letter last week, Trump attributed the tariffs set to start in August to Brazil's treatment of former President Jair Bolsonaro and to alleged unfair trade practices by Brazil against US companies. Lula and members of his cabinet have rejected the reasoning behind the tariffs and insisted on Brazil's sovereignty while calling for trade negotiations with the United States. White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt said at a press conference on Thursday that the European Union continues to be eager in negotiating trade with the US. Leavitt added that President Trump would not accept a postponement of the August 1 deadline when higher duties would come into effect.
As for the European Union, they continue to be very eager in negotiating with our country for obvious reasons on ways to lower their tariff and their non-tariff barriers that we have long said harm our workers and our companies. So the President's trade team continue to be in talks with the European Union.
Moving on, Bahrain's Crown Prince announced on Wednesday plans to invest more than $17 billion in the United States at a meeting with President Donald Trump focused on trade, Iran and regional security issues. Under the plan, Bahrain signed a deal valued at about $7 billion for its national carrier Gulf Air to buy 12 Boeing BAN aircraft with an option for 6 more and 40 General Electrical engines. Bahrain's communications office released a statement on Thursday saying that under the agreement, Gulf Air will acquire 18 new P-787 aircraft from Boeing. It said a memorandum of understanding was established to supply Gulf Air with 36 GE engines. Trump said the two men would privately discuss Iran, which is under pressure to resume nuclear talks with the US, as Washington and 3 major European countries have agreed to set the end of August as the deadline for a deal. The US official said the new Bahrain deal will support 30,000 American jobs and was secured with help from Trump and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. And White House has confirmed that US President Donald Trump will visit Scotland from July 25th to 29th. White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt told reporters that Trump is set to hold trade-related talks with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer during the visit. Leavitt further said that Trump and the First Lady will visit Windsor Castle to meet King Charles later this year.
During the visit, President Trump will meet again with Prime Minister Starmer to refine the great trade deal that was brokered between the United States and the United Kingdom. And the President and the First Lady will travel to the United Kingdom for an official state visit from September 17th to September 19th later this fall. This will mark a truly unprecedented second state visit for President Trump, and he is honored and looking forward to meeting with His Majesty the King at Windsor Castle.
And a UK-US trade deal came into force on June 30th, slashing US export tariffs for the UK's automotive and aerospace sectors. UK car manufacturers can now export to the US under a reduced 10% tariff quota, saving hundreds of millions annually and supporting hundreds of thousands of jobs. The UK aerospace sector also gains a major boost with 10% tariffs on goods like engines and aircraft parts removed today and a commitment to maintain them at 0%. Time now for another short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. White House confirms Trump diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency. No major health concerns found. Thousands of doctors and health workers protest in Buenos Aires over Milei's government's cuts to public health sector. And we'll get you weather updates from around the globe. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Recap of our top stories. US designates Pakistani group the Resistance Front as a terrorist organization, calls it a front and proxy of Lashkar-e-Taiba, says it reinforces Trump's demand for justice for the Pahalgam attack. In yet another test of its missile prowess, India successfully tests short-range ballistic missiles Prithvi 2 and Agni 1 off Odisha coast, demonstrating credible strategic deterrence capability. Tariff war of words escalates as Brazil's president terms Trump's threats as unacceptable blackmail, says there is no logic to US tariff threat. EU readies retaliatory list targeting US services. Massive victory for cryptocurrency as US House passes stablecoins bill, sends to President Trump to sign it into law. House also approves 2 other crypto bills. And in sports, Indian wrestler Sujeet Kalkal clinches gold medal at ranking series tournament in Hungary. The 4th G20 Finance Ministers and Central Bank Governors meeting is being held in South Africa. Ministers and central bank leaders from G20 countries, invited nations and international financial institutions have convened to discuss pressing global economic issues. Key topics on the agenda include financial stability, debt sustainability, global inflation trends and reform of international financial institutions. DD India's Nazneen Ismail reports for more.
The 4th Finance Ministers and Central Bank Governors meeting is being held at Zimbali Estate in South Africa, with the Indian Ocean providing a striking backdrop as global leaders gather to discuss key economic challenges and opportunities.
This province has the distinct honor and privilege to have been the home of Mahatma Gandhi for a large part of his day in South Africa that spanned 21 years, and namely from 1893 to 1914. Gandhi had a profound and multifaceted impact on India and South Africa, and many drew inspiration from his across the globe, including Nelson Mandela in his quest to lead South Africa to independence. As leaders, there's a great deal that, as a collective, we can learn from both Gandhi and Mandela. We have often been revered as the fathers of their nation as we reflect on both the complexity and the promise of our shared global agenda.
Amid global economic uncertainty, India's voice continues to rise with quiet confidence. I caught up with Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India, Dr. Venkatraman Ananda Nageshwaran, who's helping shape not just India's fiscal path, but conversations across the G20.
India continues to articulate some of the issues that are common to the developing world and also obviously for India as well. One is how will we assimilate and integrate technology while creating jobs such as artificial intelligence, etc. I think the way in which global south countries can collaborate is to pool their human resources and look at creating R&D, because supply chain vulnerabilities arise from dependence on single sources, and obviously the answer to that is to do what today's dominant supply chain countries have done, which is to invest in technology, invest in R&D, invest in human resources. And if individual countries are somewhat fiscally strapped, it is important to tap into the private sector, but also collaborate and pool the intellectual and human resources to be able to create supply chain resilience. This not only involves understanding each country's strengths in terms of physical resource endowments, etc., but also human resource endowments. And these are the areas through which I think South Africa and India can collaborate.
Two nations, one conversation. India's economic wisdom meets South Africa's warm diplomacy. That was Dr. Nageshwaran and I'm Nazneen for DD India, connecting continents through conversation.
An update on Syria's situation now. The United States condemned violence in Syria, calling on all parties to step back and engage in meaningful dialogue that leads to a lasting ceasefire. Talking to media, State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce said that US did not support recent Israeli strikes on Syria.
The United States unequivocally condemns the violence. All parties must step back and engage in meaningful dialogue that leads to a lasting ceasefire. The United States did not support recent Israeli strikes. We are engaging diplomatically with Israel and Syria at the highest levels, both to address the present crisis and reach a lasting agreement between the two sovereign states. President Trump has outlined his clear vision of a prosperous Middle East and stable Syria at peace with itself and its neighbors. Peace among neighbors, including Israel and Syria, is a critical component of this vision.
Israel launched airstrikes in Damascus on Wednesday while also hitting government forces in the south. The airstrikes blew up part of Syria's defense ministry and hit near the presidential palace. Israel said it was intervening on behalf of the Druze community after communal clashes. Moving further, US President Donald Trump on Friday threatened to sue the Wall Street Journal, News Corp and Rupert Murdoch for the Jeffrey Epstein story that they published on the Epstein files. The reaction by the Trump was catalyzed by a report by the Wall Street Journal that the former sent an alleged letter to Epstein, the contents of which were sexually suggestive. According to a Wall Street Journal report published on Thursday, a collection of letters gifted to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday in 2003 included a note bearing Donald Trump's name and an outline of a naked woman. Trump, in an interview with the Journal on Tuesday, denied that he wrote the letter or drew the picture and threatened to sue the newspaper if it published the story. The White House said on Thursday that US President Donald Trump was examined for swelling in his legs and has been diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency. White House spokeswoman reading a letter from Trump's doctor at a press briefing said both ailments were benign. Caroline Leavitt told reporters that his leg swelling is from a common vein condition and his hand is bruised from shaking so many hands. Leavitt told reporters Trump was not experiencing discomfort due to this condition.
The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a benign and common condition, particularly in individuals over the age of 70. Importantly, there was no evidence of deep vein thrombosis or arterial disease.
After Leavitt's briefing, the White House released the letter from a US Navy officer who is Trump's physician, Sean Barbabella. It said Trump underwent a suite of tests about the issues. The letter said there was no evidence Trump had contracted deep vein thrombosis or arterial disease. Barbella said the additional exams identified two signs of heart failure, kidney impairment or a systemic illness. Trump underwent an extensive physical examination on April 11 at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in suburban Washington. It said Trump had a normal heart rhythm and no major health problems. Now, thousands of doctors, health workers and supporters marched through the streets of Buenos Aires on Thursday to protest against Javier Milei-led government cutbacks to Argentina's public health sector. Demonstrators carried signs and placards demanding better funding and salaries, as well as criticizing the policies of President Javier Milei. Protesters sparked concerns on the budget freezes and mass layoffs, which is creating severe crisis in major national hospitals, which serves patients from across the country. Organized protest was backed by dozens of union and social organizations, coinciding with a 24-hour strike by Garrahan Hospital staff demanding better salaries and working conditions. Over 220 healthcare staff have resigned recently due to poor conditions and inflation, putting pressure on public hospitals. Some weather updates now. First up from India. Monsoon intensifies its grip across India. The India Met Department has issued a red alert for Rajasthan, Karnataka and Kerala. The whole nation remains under alert except for Punjab, Haryana, Delhi and West Bengal. Extremely heavy rainfall likely to lash Uttar Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, East Uttar Pradesh during 17th to 23rd July. In Jahanabad, Bihar, the Dardha River has overflowed its banks following days of heavy rainfall, inundating low-lying areas and disrupting normal life. Meanwhile, in Varanasi, relentless showers have led to significant water accumulation at Asi Ghat, resulting in localized flooding and raising concerns. Meanwhile, heavy rain has set off floods in streets on Independence, Kansas on Thursday, prompting nearly 24 rescues of people stranded in their cars. Rescuers waded through water to reach cars stuck in floods overnight. They continued working through the morning even as the rain started to taper off. No injuries or deaths have been reported. Areas to the west and north of the city were also overrun with heavy rains. Heavy monsoon rains across Pakistan's Punjab province killed at least 63 people and injured nearly 300 in the past 24 hours, provincial officials said on Thursday, bringing the nationwide death toll from the rains to at least 159 since late June. The downpours triggered flooding and building collapses, with most fatalities caused by roof failures in weaker homes. The National Disaster Management Authority said more than 1,000 homes had been damaged and 6 livestock were killed. Pakistan's National Weather Forecasting Centre said the current spell would persist for 3 more days, with another round of rain expected next weekend, particularly in northern regions. And heavy rain in South Korea for the 3rd consecutive day has forced over 5,000 people into shelters, left at least 4 dead and caused significant damage to property and infrastructure as of Friday. Torrential rain warnings remain in effect for most of the country's western and southern regions, and the Weather Service has advised extreme caution against landslides and flooding through Saturday. The Safety Ministry said 2 people were trapped in cars on flooded roads and another died in a basement under flood water in the central South Chungcheong province. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung will hold an emergency meeting on the weather on Friday. Now, Spain's Guardia Civil released footage of firefighting efforts in Toledo following intense wildfires on Thursday. The Civil Guard has evacuated dozens of people in Mentreda and Calipofado, and authorities estimate that more than 2,500 hectares of grassland and agroforestry areas have been affected. Meanwhile, air tankers were refilling with water from the San Juan Reservoir in San Martin de Valdeiglesias, Madrid, to fight the wildfires. Aircraft also joined firefighters to battle a wildfire in Mentrida and Valmojado near Madrid. Strong winds are fanning the flames, hindering the work of firefighters and blowing large columns of heavy smoke into the Spanish capital. Local Forest Fire Prevention Service said 157 firefighters and forest rangers were working on the fire. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. US stocks hit record high amid strong retail sales and earnings overcoming tariff concerns. After struggling with form in recent months, Wimbledon finalist Ons Jabeur takes break from tennis. Antalia's hidden gem, Uchansu waterfall, becomes a summer sensation for the tourist.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Business updates now. The US House of Representatives on Thursday passed a bill to create a regulatory framework for US dollar-pegged cryptocurrency tokens known as stablecoins, sending the bill to President Donald Trump. Two other bills passed by the House known as the CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act and the Clarity Act will now go to the Senate, where their ultimate fates are still unknown. House lawmakers also passed a bill developing a regulatory framework for crypto that will move on to the Senate for consideration. The stablecoin bill, dubbed the Genius Act, received bipartisan support, with many Democrats joining Republicans to back the proposed federal rules. The vote on the market structure bill, known as the Clarity Act, was also notably bipartisan. If signed into law, the bill would require tokens to be backed by liquid assets such as US dollars and short-term treasury bills, and for issuers to publicly disclose the composition of their reserves on a monthly basis. Now, US stocks rose to fresh record highs on Thursday as markets focused on solid US retail sales data and corporate earnings rather than lingering worries about President Donald Trump's tariffs. The broad-based S&P 500 rose 0.5%, while the tech-rich Nasdaq Composite Index gained 0.7%, its fourth straight closing record. The Dow Jones Industrial Average also climbed 0.5%, still below its record closing level. US retail sales rebounded more than expected in June, but some of the increase likely reflected higher prices for some goods exposed to tariffs. Thursday's market gains follow a dramatic wobble during the prior session when Trump said he was highly unlikely to fire Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. However, he left the door open to the possibility of ousting him and renewed his criticism of the central bank chief for not cutting US interest rates. Asian shares tracked Wall Street higher on Friday as still strong US economic data and robust corporate earnings offset tariff worries, while the yen headed towards a second successive week of loss ahead of Japan's upper house election. California Governor Gavin Newsom vowed to fight the illegal move by President Donald Trump's administration to cancel more than $4 billion in federal grants for the state's ambitious but much delayed high-speed rail project. A lawsuit challenging the recession as an arbitrary and capricious abuse of authority was filed on Thursday in U.S. District Court in Los Angeles by the California High-Speed Rail Authority, which oversees the project. The rail project began with a $10 billion bond approved by voters in 2008 and has already built over 60 miles of track and many bridges and overpasses. Trump's announcement on Wednesday added yet another hurdle to the 16-year effort to link Los Angeles and San Francisco by a 3-hour train ride, a project that would deliver the fastest passenger rail service in the United States. Gavin Newsom said California will explore all options to fight the funding cut. This funding right is the latest clash between Republican President Trump and Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom. The Venezuelan economy has grown more than 6% in the second quarter of 2025. President Nicolas Maduro announced the same on Thursday, citing figures released by the Central Bank of Venezuela. He said the nation achieved 9% growth in the first quarter, despite what he called attempts at economic destabilization. The president credited continued growth to work and production efforts. Venezuela remains under U.S. sanctions, which were tightened in May when the Trump administration revoked licenses allowing foreign partners of state oil from PDVSA to export crude. All right, sports updates now. We'll start with wrestling. Indian wrestler Sujeet Kalkal won the gold medal in the 65kg men's freestyle category at the ranking series tournament in Hungary. The Indian wrestler produced a clinical performance in the final to beat four-time European medalist Ali Rahimzadeh of Azerbaijan 5-1 in Budapest. This was the first gold medal won by an Indian wrestler in any of the ranking series events this year. India won another medal in the men's 57kg category, with Rahul bagging a bronze after defeating Germany's Niklas Stekele 4-0. And all four Indian players, Divya Deshmukh, Or Vishali, Koneru Hampi and Harika Dronavalli, will compete in the pre-quarterfinals tie-breaks of the FIDE Women's World Cup in Georgia on Friday. Divya Deshmukh lost her second game with black pieces to Zhu Jina after defeating the world number 6 from China previous day. The results meant that 4 of the 8 quarterfinalists were decided, while the 4 Indians in contention will battle for the remaining 4 spots in Batumi city. In the tournament, all games are played in a head-to-head elimination format. If there is no clear winner after 2 classical games, the battle enters into tie-breaks to decide the winner. It offers the top 3 finishers a spot at next year's Women's Candidates Tournament, where they will lock horns with reigning world champion. An Austrian extreme sports pioneer, Felix Baumgartner, has died in a paragliding accident in central Italy. Baumgartner is famous for a record-breaking skydive from the edge of space in 2012. Police said he lost control of his motorized paraglider while flying over March region and fell to the ground near the swimming pool of a hotel. The reasons for the accident were unclear. The Austrian made headlines in 2012 when he jumped from a balloon 38 kilometers above Earth wearing a specially made suit. His long career of daredevil jumps included skydiving across the English Channel and parachuting of the Petronas Towers in Malaysia. And 3-time Grand Slam finalist Ons Jabeur has decided to take a break from competitive tennis. The 30-year-old has struggled with her form in recent months, failing to get past the 3rd round of a major this year. The 2-time Wimbledon finalist campaign came to a disappointing end at the All England club last month as she retired from a first-round clash due to a long medical timeout. The former world number 2 suffers from asthma and experienced breathing difficulties at this year's Australian Open. And women's marathon world record holder Ruth Chep-Ngetich has been provisionally suspended on suspicion of doping. Chep-Ngetich has been suspended after testing positive for a banned substance. Athletics Integrity Unit head Brett Clothier said 30-year-old Chep-Ngetich case was being investigated and would be heard by a disciplinary tribunal. She smashed the women's marathon record in Chicago last October, running the distance in 2 hours, 9 minutes and 56 seconds. And Antalia's Uchansu waterfall is a hidden gem that's stealing the spotlight this summer. Nestled deep in the Taurus Mountains, it flows with icy water from melting snow, offering a cool escape from the heat. Visitors can swim, snap photos and soak in the stunning views. Tourists from around the world are amazed by its beauty and the splash of nature's magic. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.